This is Writers Not Writing, the show where you can get to know your favorite writers and soon-to-be favorite writers by listening to them confess to the ways they procrastinate. Thanks for procrastinating with us. I'm Benjamin Gorman, and the quiet guy behind the glass there is Doug the producer. I write novels and collections of poetry and stuff. Doug tries his best to make me sound better. And each week we have a secret word to listen for. If you catch it, you earn the right to take an extra break at the time of your choosing from whatever is stressing you out. From Not a Pipe Publishing, welcome to Writers Not Writing.
Today's secret word is gargle.
Today's show is brought to us by the book River's New Friend by author Michael Roth. It's a fun and relatable children's picture book about a dog named River learning to appreciate her challenging new sibling, Willow. More about that at the ad break in the middle of the show. Today's guest is Jessie Kwak. Jessie has always lived in imaginary lands from Arrakis to Angmork Park to Earthsea, Tatooine, and now Portland, Oregon. When she's not writing, she can be found sewing, mountain biking, or out exploring new worlds both at home and abroad. She's the author of a supernatural thriller, 2 series of space pirate and space mafia sci-fi crime novels, and a series of creative productivity guides, including From Chaos to Creativity. Jessie, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
And your costume is amazing. So as regular listeners and viewers know, we always dress up in costume for the recording of the show. Folks who are on YouTube can see us right now, but we have to describe our costumes for the folks who are listening to the podcast. So tell everybody what you chose to wear.
Well, I am paying homage to the Arctic explorers today with a full-on, parka and the fuzzy face, the sea-aligned fur, all that good stuff.
Oh,
just
yeah.
Totally wrapped up here. It did actually literally snow here in Portland yesterday. So,
but you look like you were even warm in that. Like, that's a lot of fur. That's very cool. Well, I wanted to, match to some extent. My son and I have been playing Diablo IV. They have a limited beta, so you have to like wait and get in, and one of the character types is a barbarian. And so I was like, yes, I can match, I can do. So I've got this fur-lined collar and these giant horns out from the side of this helmet, and then this chainmail, but the chainmail is like belly shirt chainmail, which is an interesting choice in the game, fashion-wise, but show off that I am also hairy as well. So yeah, I'm going full-on barbarian today. We have a barbarian and a polar explorer for the folks who are listening.
I think it's important to have that cropped chainmail to show off that your abs are strong enough to protect your organs. You don't have to worry
when you're
about
carrying these axes, these giant axes and mauls, it's just naturally getting the ab workout that you need, just hefting them about. So yeah, that's whereas the controller, not that heavy. Like really, it's not. I'm not getting any real exercise playing the game. No, and we did have a lot of fun playing it. It is. I'm excited for the full version to come out in a couple weeks. It'll be a lot of father-son bonding, well, like raising skeletons to fight for us. That's the plan.
Awesome.
So speaking of which, what have you been keeping yourself busy with procrastinating from your writing when you're not traveling the world?
I have been very distracted by Horizon Forbidden West lately. So I've never been much of a video game player. I was huge into StarCraft like back in college.
Yes.
And that was a lot of papers got written at the very last minute because I stayed up way too late playing StarCraft. But my husband got a PlayStation a couple years back and he was like, we can play games together. And I was like, I don't know about that. Like, it's not really my thing. But we ended up playing through Witcher together. And I was just like, man, I am so involved in the story. And it's really fascinating. Like the storytelling in video games is amazing.
And the distance it has come from StarCraft to now, like leaps and bounds. Here is this really bare bones story just to justify the play, and now the story is central. Witcher is a really involved world. I have not. So Horizon Forbidden West is the sequel to Horizon Forbidden Dawn, right?
Yeah.
So, and I always am interested. What is the kind of premise and the story for that one? Because I have not played that one yet.
Yeah. So you're essentially playing, it's this post-apocalyptic world, but hundreds of thousands of years in the future, like a really long time in the future where the Earth is kind of reseeded itself after the collapse of humanity. So you're exploring this world that is, all these ancient ruins that we would recognize that are,
Right.
kind of vine covered. And the race of humans at that point is a little more primitive. There is some technology that they've like gleaned from the old world, but you're hunting with like a bow and arrow or like a spear, but with some cool technology upgrades. But there's these dinosaur-like creatures that are basically robots that you're not really sure whether you start to learn where they're coming from, but you're basically like hunting robot dinosaurs with a spear and a bow and arrow. And the story is great. It's a really fun story, and it just kind of unfolds in all these little pieces. But you play this badass chick with a bow and arrow hunting
Yeah,
robot
which
dinosaurs.
is
I love it.
awesome. And also reading it, see, I fall into that. But as a sci-fi author, you must just be going, this is a beautifully constructed, complete universe.
Oh yeah. And it's visually gorgeous. Like it's a stunning game.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I need. I need a good story, and I need something beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and Diablo IV is not beautiful, although the cinematics now, what they can do. I mean, you're watching these movies in the midst of this really grotesque game, but it's a great fantasy world that they have created there. It's a little bit rote in terms of the character classes and the individual characters' struggles within that are what you would expect. They're not breaking new narrative ground, particularly in that one, but the gameplay is sure fun. Like it's a kick.
Yeah.
So what about in the news? What has been pulling you away from your writing and has been distracting you?
Oh man, I have definitely scaled back on news consumption over the last few years. After I think all of us probably went through a period of not getting anything done because of news.
Yeah, the horror.
But the thing that's been making it through my news shield lately is all of the stuff about the AI. That's
Yes.
like very hard. I mean, as a creator, it's very hard not to be like, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? I
Right.
have to
Am I becoming obsolete in my own lifetime? Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I love, some people are very optimistic about like, here's how we can use this tool as creators. And I love that perspective, and I'm trying to read more of that as opposed to terrifying myself.
yes,
But
yes.
yeah.
Well, I was Evan Williams was one of my guests, and he had great kind of take on this, that when the pop movement becomes more and more AI, people may have a thirst for real human writing, and the way
Mhm.
that we will prove that it is human writing is going to be kind of underground. And so maybe people will be more inclined to go to, for example, a poetry reading, which Chat GPT cannot do. Live
Mhm.
readings of human created work that are maybe handwritten so that it is clearly off the grid. And I think that's a kind of an interesting sci-fi future of people desperate and desirous of actual human-made art and proving that it's human art. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we shall see. But that yeah, I have been paying a lot of attention to. But I haven't. Have you been playing around with Chat GPT? I haven't played with it at all.
I played around with a version, an older version that
Yeah.
actually a friend of mine was testing, kind of a tool that she was hoping to launch, and that didn't end up going anywhere. But I was kind of helping her, and I was using it. Didn't work all that well for fiction, but it was scarily useful for my day job writing, which is freelance writing.
Right.
Well, I guess more and more right now, as a freelance writer, I am moving into, okay, what can I do that the robots can't do?
Right.
Because the robots, like even a couple years ago when I was playing around with that, I was like, wow, like nobody needs to pay to write an SEO keyword stuffed article anymore
Right.
because this tool can already do it.
Yeah.
As that I was testing, I was like, so now I'm most of what my freelance day job is ghostwriting business books for like coaches and consultants. And so far, AI can't do that for you yet. So
No, and in fact, I wonder if we will get to the point where that will be kind of if people there'll be a stigma where people will
mhm.
say this business person's book that they want to put out feels like it was written by Chat GPT. I don't,
Yeah,
that's when somebody needs to hire Jessie to actually write this book,
yeah,
because otherwise it looks bad if that comes out. My hope is that the technological solution to something like Chat GPT will be Chat GPT, like that we will have an algorithm that can I clearly identify what has been created by a computer.
Yeah.
And so if you choose to click on the clickbait article, fine, but it will clearly identify this has been written by a computer,
Yeah.
So I think that would be, the danger of it is the deception,
Yeah. And I wonder if there's even, like right now where GMO foods need to be labeled, those sorts of movements. I wonder if we will start to see that, like, okay, this image, you can't post it legally without saying this,
yeah, a
was AI
watermark,
generated or
it's
whatever
fine
it
to
is.
post this image, great, no problem, but identify to people this has clearly been
Yeah.
created by a computer.
It'll be fascinating to see how the laws trail far behind what the
And
technology
yes,
is doing.
always trail significantly far behind. Yeah,
Yeah.
the senators who still think the internet is a series of plumbing, not generally on the cutting edge of these things.
Yeah.
So, what has been a hobby that's been keeping you away from your writing lately?
Yeah. Sewing is generally the hobby that tends to take the writing away, and partly because
And which
my
everybody can
office.
see with that did you put all that together? The
Yes,
polar
yeah.
outfit? Yep, that's a lot of
Yep.
sewing. I tend to like hop on Amazon and just purchase mine. I do not have that skill set, but yeah. So what all
Yeah.
have you been doing in terms of those kinds of projects?
So right now I've got laid out. So my office is also my sewing room. So when I'm sitting here writing and I can't think of anything and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just walk over here.
Yeah.
But so right now I have laid out, I'm trying to make a handlebar bag for a bicycle that would also double as kind of a cute purse.
Yeah.
Um,
Transformer.
so yeah, something that can, securely sit on the handlebars of the bicycle, but then you take it off, throw a shoulder strap on
Like
it,
a
and you
shoulder.
got
Yeah.
something you can walk around. Yeah. So
And
that's the
like sewing, like crochet or like sewing together, pieces of fabric that are already, you're cutting out and sewing together and
Yeah, so sewing together pieces of fabric. So this right now I've got like a nice kind of dark gray canvas. And then also I'll just show it to you. I've got it right
yeah,
here.
yeah. If you're willing to show it off, yeah.
Yeah, this cool like oilcloth.
Oh, cool.
So it's that sort of shiny vinyl. It's you see it at like, on Mexican restaurant tables, that bright colored stuff. But this is like for people who did not just see in the video. It's black with kind of a white lace pattern over it.
Will a
So
standard sewing machine puncture that?
mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, I'm excited to see how that all comes together.
Yeah,
And
me too.
you'll have to bring it. So you are on the panel for our show in at NorwestCon. So yeah, you'll have to bring your bag and show it off to
Yeah.
listeners. No,
Well,
no
that's good. It's
pressure.
good to have
You've
a
got two
deadline.
weeks, right? Yes. Oh, that's cool. So yeah, so what all other kinds of sewing? What got you into sewing? Is this something you've been doing for years and years, or?
Yeah, my mom actually, I mean, she would sew clothes for us kids when we were growing up. And every summer she would insist on us doing a sewing project. And so we'd go to the fabric store, we'd pick out a pattern of a dress or skirt or something, and then pick out the fabric, and then we'd sew that project. And so I really enjoyed that. I love the flexibility of being able to create something that nobody else has, or that, I'll go shopping for a coat and be like, I just don't see anything that I want.
Yeah.
And knowing that I have the skill to be able to create that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's
So when I went to
really awesome.
college, I ended up buying a sewing machine from a friend and just kind of kept it up. And so my mom taught me, and then everything else has been really self-taught.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And when you are sewing, are you do you have to hyper focus, or is that an opportunity to think about other things because it's one part of your brain? Do you listen to
Yeah.
audiobooks or podcasts while you do it, or do you need more focus than that? How does that play out in your writing life?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There are some parts that I need to focus, especially if I'm drafting something, or um, it's a very, I think it's a really great complementary hobby to writing, because writing, you're kind of in this creating imaginative world, and sewing is really more technical. And so
Mm-hmm.
even though it's very creative, you're still like, okay, so if I want this purse to be 18 inches wide and I have a half-inch seam on either side, and then I'm going to cut this and I'm going to put this pocket here, or, I made this pair of pants and they don't quite fit, and why is that? So there are those sorts of things that are really like engineering puzzles in a way.
Yes.
Um, and so that requires a lot of hyper focus. But then there's a lot of just like putting, sewing things
Right.
through the
Right.
sewing machine and serging
Yeah.
stuff.
I
And
find that
so
the
I listen to a
thing,
lot of
the
podcasts.
artistic endeavors that don't involve words are
Mhm.
really good for me, because if it's the layout of, if I'm creating the interior file for a book, I can't help but get attracted to the language, and so I can't be listening to a podcast, or listening to podcasts are more exceptional, but like I can't listen to an audiobook and focus well enough. I certainly can't be thinking about the phrasing of some of my own work when I'm looking at that. But things like gardening, or even painting, I found sculpting this last summer, because they are that technical and mechanical, but not language based in the same way. And so then I could daydream about, what is my character doing in this scene, and how am I going to try and describe that setting, because it didn't have that same demand of the same part of my brain.
Yeah, totally. I think gardening is a great example of that, because I often, if I'm sewing, like I'll have a podcast on, I'll be listening to something that maybe is informing my writing, but normally if I'm outside, like I kind of just want to be outside. And so then I'm letting my mind wander as I'm, pulling weeds or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, or even things like the viewers can see your plants behind you.
Mhm.
The watering of the plants is this rote thing that must be done to keep them happy and alive.
Yep.
And while doing it, I find it really calming. And like, okay, while I'm doing this, I can be, I've got a little bonsai garden downstairs, and I love,
Mhm.
just that minute work of taking care of the bonsai has been good for me to go. This is the biggest benefit of bonsai. I love bonsai, and can go on and on about this thing that's so dumb, but I love it because it won't be finished in my lifetime. And so you
Yeah.
don't have that feeling of, I've got to get this project done so I can move on to the next one. The project is not done. I'm going
Mhm.
to will these things to my son, who will immediately throw them away because he doesn't want to be burdened with this project. And that's fine. Like, this was this thing that helped me go, not everything gets finished,
Mhm.
and that's good. So yeah, the plants are autonomous beings, and I'm just doing my best to keep them alive.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that.
So I am excited to hear about. We should take a brief commercial break here, and when we come back, I want to hear about what you've been daydreaming about.
When River the dog meets her new little sister Willow, she expects they'll be best friends. But Willow steals food, slobbers on toys, makes messes all over the house, and takes away from River's time with Mom and Dad. Willow isn't a friend. She's a monster. River decides to look for a new friend instead. River's New Friend is a fun and relatable children's picture book about learning to appreciate a new sibling. It's available for pre-order now through April 15th. Visit rothwrites.com for more information.
A little bit more news about the show. We will be at NorwestCon in Seattle, April 6th to 9th, to do a live recording of an episode that will air later. So, like Schrodinger's cat's version of a live show, live and not live. I'm excited to announce the guests. Check out this lineup: Miko Azul, Jessie Kwak, Heather S. Ransom, Luke Elliott, and Casey Dunn. And hopefully you. If you'll be in the Seattle area April 6th to 9th, go to the link in the show notes and register for NorwestCon, and then come be live and not live with the rest of us. I promise there will not be a decaying radioactive isotope in the room, so bring some fun questions for these amazing panelists. We will see you there. Welcome back, Jessie. So what have you been daydreaming about lately that has been pulling you away from your work?
Oh, so a couple weeks ago, my husband and I went to Mexico City, and it was a birthday bucket list trip, so it was like it was incredible. I've had so much
So
fun.
cool.
But we were walking around near El Centro. There's like a bunch of little kind of market streets, and you can just really get lost in the stalls of people selling everything from like, underwear to power tools. And we ended up, there's a whole section that was just fabric and fabric stores. and just rolls of fabric, and everybody had different kinds of fabric. And I mean, Portland is a very creative city, but we have like 2 very small fabric stores. We used to have this wonderful place called Fabric Depot, which closed when the owners eventually retired. But like, we just don't have anything like this amazing fabric market. So as I was wandering around, I was like, I didn't buy anything. I was very proud of myself.
Wow.
But I started to have this fantasy. Yes. I started to have this fantasy of moving to Mexico City and starting, just wandering these fabric stalls and buying things and making, fun little unique designs that I could then sell. Because when you go to Mexico City, like, everybody's got these little stalls that are open for, I don't know, a couple hours a day, and they're selling. I mean, there was a guy who was selling liquor, and he was half a block away from like a giant liquor store, and he was somehow making money. So these stalls can't be that expensive. So I was like, I'm going to start this cool little fashion design thing, like, where I'll only be open a few hours a day, and then I'll write the rest of the time and sew the rest of the time. And then so in my mind now, I'm a fashion designer living in Mexico City.
Oh, and it does sound great. I mean, the idea of having a place where it is, got enough of a reputation that you can say, we're only open for, 3 hours a day, and people know and come to our fashion, just like that guy's liquor store, because that's the one to go to. What a better, healthier life balance, for that, and then the rest of the time, create. Oh, that would be so cool. That's an excellent dream.
We just got to get my husband a job where he can work fully remote. So
and his work is partially remote, right? He was totally remote during the lockdowns, but is he back on site?
Well, he's in sales, so he works full time out of the office. There's no like central office for his company, but he just has to be on the road and like visiting bike shops and things like that. So that's the part that would be
enough
harder.
of a bike market in Mexico that he could be going to. I got to go to Puerto Vallarta, and I got to go to Veracruz, and I'm popping all over the country selling bike parts, and then you can go, I'll be here making these beautiful fashion items. That sounds very doable. That's a very doable dream. Or it's a retirement dream. Like, that, and maybe that's my Americanness, that, my idea of retirement is starting another job. I know. But it sounds really cool.
Yeah, no, it's the new daydream. There's always a daydream.
Well, speaking of daydream activities and big work projects, what's coming up for you? I got a little teaser about this and got very excited. What is this event that's going to be coming up?
So the big thing that I'm working on right now is the Author Alchemy Summit, which is going to be in Portland, Oregon in 2024 in February. I think it's the 22nd through 25th of February. And it is an author conference for nonfiction, fiction, traditionally published, indie, but really focused on how to connect better with your reader. And so whether that's through like the sales channels that you're using, or selling at events, whether that's through like the marketing sort of things that you're doing in your newsletter, TikTok, things like Patreon, Kickstarter, your craft, like how do you write books that really connect with people and connect with your audience? So I'm really excited about the speakers that I'm getting to kind of attack all of those different angles. And it's just going to be a really smallish 100 to 150 people, really highly focused on networking as well as that, kind of educational aspect. Well, so I'm super excited.
I got to tell you, I looked it up and I was like, I need this. Like, this looks so cool. But my first reaction was, February, I missed it. And I was just like, oh no. It's next year. Okay, I have got to get in on this. And even the hotel, even the location is cool.
The location is very fun. It's the Jupiter Hotel, which is in kind of southeast Portland. And I really wanted, if I'm going to be bringing people to Portland, I wanted to give them like the ultimate Portland experience.
It's very Portland. It's cool
very
place. Yeah. So I am excited. I saw that the description and was just like, this is, because that is the heart. I have the part that I have struggled with the most. Sitting down and writing a book is very hard for most people. Like, that's never been a problem for me. I can sit down and write a book. How do I get that book honed, that's been a lifetime of learning. How do I actually make a product that I can be proud of? But then how do I get it into readers' hands? And I have not mastered that by any means. So I'm sure I would just come out of that with a ton of ideas. So
yeah, I'm hoping it's just one of those where your brain is bursting and then you've met all these new fun people that are going to be collaborators and friends and all that stuff. So
I'm totally in. That sounds excellent.
So I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but registration is going to be open in the next couple of weeks. So
perfect. Good. Yes. This will come out
once I get my ducks together.
So, we may beat it, but if you hear this podcast too soon and can't yet register, mark your calendar, because that sounds like a really awesome experience. And I hope some folks come from outside the area too. I hope that it draws people into Portland, because it sounds like a really cool event. And so is this all your brainchild?
It is mine and my husband's brainchild. So years ago, I went to a conference called the Smarter Artist Summit in Austin, and I went several years in a row and just loved it. And it was a similar kind of smallish conference, really highly focused on kind of the educational side of things, but then networking as well. That one was a very indie focused conference. But it just was such a breath of fresh air in terms of conferences that I'd been to, and everything that I've been to since. Whenever I go to a conference, I'm like, oh, I mean, that was cool, but it wasn't quite this. And so my husband has constantly been like, well, when are you going to put on your own conference that's like the Smarter Artist Summit? And so finally I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. So
I think it sounds good. One of the things that intrigues me about it is the focus. Like, I think that there are a lot of these that I've been to where it's, part inspiration and part technical craft and part the marketing side, and you're going, but I need all those things. Where do I go? And so having it focused I think sounds like you'd get people who are then all in the same place. I mean, I'm sure you'll get people who are within their kind of journey about learning about marketing are in very different places, but figuring out how to connect with readers, if everybody's got that shared focus, I think it sounds like a really wonderful event. So
yeah, and it'll be a single track of programming, and part of the reason for that was I just want everyone in the same room, learning about the same things, having the same conversations. So we're all, because it's going to be a small group, so it's very we don't need to be in 8 different sessions.
Yes, and that's been my frustration with others. I mean, it's wonderful when you've got lots of options. That's cool. That can be a really good thing. But that sense of we're this massive group, and I can't possibly get to know all these people, and we're coming at these things from very different places. I know I've had that experience of sitting down at conferences with folks and going, the person who isn't even they want to be a writer, and they're saying, but I've never written anything yet. Which, no knock, like, great, you're getting into this and you're coming and wanting to learn about it, but you're at a very different place than somebody who's sitting on a stack of novels and they're saying, how do I get these into readers' hands? And so I think that having people who are have a shared sense of a goal, I'm excited about that. I think that'll work really well.
Awesome.
I'm in. I will see you there. So we do a weekly poll each week, and I got to pull up our response to the last one, but it was pretty overwhelming. We had our last week's poll was actually from the week before, from Beth Barani, and asked if you had to choose, which story universe would you want to live in? And the options were Star Wars, Star Trek, Firefly, and Farscape. And where did you fall on that one?
I was back and forth between Star Trek and Firefly, because Star Trek seems like the world that, I mean, it would just be a very nice, comfortable world.
That's yes.
But Firefly, I think, would be a real fun world.
Yeah, I think Firefly would be fun, but I'm not sure I've got it in me. I think it would be dangerous.
I think I could be a cool gun-toting, like, space pirate.
Yeah, see, I think I could be like Jean-Luc Picard's brother in Star Wars, or in Star Trek. Just got a vineyard, back home. It's safe. Like, I think that sounds totally. It would be great, And Star Trek did win overwhelmingly, 89.5%.
Oh my
with
gosh.
Star Wars at 10%, which kind of surprises me. Star Wars is a universe where literally your planet could be destroyed at any minute.
I know that's a real far down there on the list for me.
Yeah, it was a big turnoff to me. I mean, been a Star Wars nerd since I was very, very young. Love Star Wars. Would not want to live there. It does not sound pleasant. But who knows who's going to rise up and take over the galaxy next? So yeah, that doesn't sound good to me. But yeah, Star Trek was the big winner there. Yeah, Firefly is grim in some ways too, and then Farscape is weird. Farscape would be fun but weird. So what's the poll question we should ask for this next week?
So what I was really curious about was which fictional food or drink people would most like to have, because I think it's probably because I read so many like of the Brian Jakes. I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce
yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that either. Yeah,
but all the Redwall books growing up where it was just like feasting constantly, and so I love all these fictional foods. So I picked 4 that I thought were most interesting. Lembas from The Lord of the Rings, the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster from Hitchhiker's Guide to the
at least want to try one once. Yeah,
exactly. It's probably a one
yeah,
time
I think
thing.
one is all you need.
Doozer sticks from Fraggle Rock, those little, like, I don't know, they always look like they would taste like jicama. They look like jicama, like chopped up jicama, but
Yeah,
I'm sure they taste more interesting than that because they seem to love them.
Yeah.
And then Klingon Blood Wine from Star Trek.
Yes.
I bet that might also be something you only need to taste once.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But those are excellent choices. I am really curious to see how much people's knowledge of those universes and love of those universes plays into that, because I would totally Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster for me. That sounds, but then that universe is my favorite of those as well. Although the Fraggle Rock one is really fun. Like, that takes me back. That would be, yeah. I had not thought of doozer sticks in what it's been a long time since that's right, they had their thing. It's like it was like Scooby snacks, right? This is the thing that they desperately want to acquire.
But they looked just like jicama.
Yeah.
So, like,
but
isn't really all that interesting.
No, it's the least tasty food. It's all about texture. But maybe well, and maybe it is that way, and the Fraggles are super into texture.
Could be.
Who knows?
It's got a great fun texture.
Yeah. So when you're not writing, what's on your to read pile?
My to read pile, probably like everyone's, is massive, but the book that has been second on let's say it's been on the top of my to read pile, but I keep pulling other things out from underneath it, is the third in Fonda Lee's Greenbone series.
I have not read that yet.
Jade Legacy. You haven't read any of them?
No.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good.
And is that the newest one, or she's got another book coming out?
She's got a short story collection coming out.
Oh, that's what it is. Yes.
With about more of I think it's Jade Shards, maybe is the name of the collection. But her books are amazing. The Greenbone Saga is amazing. Jade City, but they're she punches you straight in the face quite a bit. And so I know I'm still recovering from reading book 2. And every time
what's the premise? What's the world?
Oh, so essentially it's kind of what would be the analogous era? I feel like I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm sorry, everyone. Like maybe 1970s or 60s era technology, in kind of it feels like Japan, but like secondary fantasy world. And not the ruling class, but like this kind of ruling underclass, maybe we'll call it that, is these clans that acquire power because of the jade that they wear. Fonda, if you ever hear this, and I'm totally butchering it, I'm so sorry.
I heard a great interview with her on now I'm trying to remember what podcast it was, where she was talking about that choice to use the jade as kind of the totem, and I was like, oh, that does sound really cool.
Yeah. So it's this really cool like underworld mafia vibe, which I love. Like
I
in
was
this
going to say that's
fantasy
right up
setting.
your alley.
Yeah,
For folks
yeah.
who've not read Jesse's work, like some of my favorites are the series that's the now I'm blanking on that's the noir
Yeah, the Bulari
crime
saga.
Bulari. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the characters are so great, and yeah, that noir vibe in this cool sci-fi setting. That's highly recommend to everybody who's listening. Very, very fun. So I can imagine this would be right up your
Yeah.
alley.
Oh yeah, yeah. So anyways, the books are amazing, but the reason that I keep not reading the third one is because I need to emotionally prepare myself for
Yeah.
whatever she's gonna do to me. She had I can't remember what it was a fundraiser for, but recently there was a fundraiser that if you donated, one of the prizes you could get was that Fonda would like write you a personalized letter about apologizing for hurting you for whatever character she killed.
That is awesome. Oh, see, this is the kind of thing for your conference. Like these
Yeah,
are the marketing techniques that I need to learn. That's a wonderful idea.
I
Sorry,
know.
I broke you.
Yeah. How does Fonda connect with her readers? She kills off everyone you love.
Yeah. She makes you love someone and then kills them. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I will have to read that. Well,
Yeah, they're so good.
mine is I have not read yet the sequel to this. What was it? The City We Became. Uh, yeah, The City We Became. The N.K. Jemisin has written the World We Make of this duology. And when I saw it, I love The City We Became so much that I saw this that she'd written a sequel, grabbed it immediately, and still haven't read it. I'm embarrassed
Yeah.
about that. So I'm looking forward to that. But like you said, the to read pile is very, very long. But folks who've not read N.K. Jemisin, she is brilliant. And the quote they've got on the front of the book is from the New York Times, the most celebrated science fiction and fantasy writer of her generation. And I feel like that's almost passive aggressive. Like the book is what's amazing. Not just that she is celebrated. She's celebrated for a reason. She's incredibly talented. So if folks have not read her work, read N.K. Jemisin. She is and I presumed that I didn't take offense when I read that quote because I was like, yeah, and she's not my generation. She's, there's still a shot for me. She's got to be in her 20s, right? She's my age. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, okay, well, she gets that, but deservedly so. She is
Yeah.
brilliant. So
Yeah, I'm not upset by that.
yeah, nope, yep, I can accept it. It's fair. She is rightly celebrated. So where can folks find you online?
Yeah, you can find basically everything about me at jessiekwak.com, and that's JESSIEKWAK. And then if you are interested in the Author Alchemy Summit, that's at authoralchemysummit.com. And depending on when you hear this, you may find a launch email list that you can sign up to hear when registration opens, or you might find registration opened.
Yeah.
Depends on how quickly I work.
But already you can find the page. I'll link to
Yes.
that in the show notes, and you can just see about it and get as excited about it as I am, because that's going to be a really cool event.
Yeah.
And then you're also on Instagram.
Yep, Instagram is the social media that I'm the most active on, and I am Kwak Jessie there. I post, or I lurk on Twitter a bit, but I rarely post. So that's where to find all the pictures of my plants.
Yes.
Primarily.
Lurking on Twitter may be the safer strategy.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
Before we sign off, I should thank some folks. Thanks to the artist Max Oakland, who reached out and provided one of his songs for our intro song, I Prefer the Dusk. Let Max know that you like it by following him on Twitter at Max Oakland with 3 Ds at the end. And thanks to Halizna CCO for their song Kids for the ad break. If you're in a band and would like your song used on the show, I'd love to highlight a listener's work like Max's song, so email that to me. Thanks, as always, to Doug, the producer, for making the show sound good and taking the blame when it doesn't. Doug will catch those coughs that you didn't hear. Doug removed those, so thanks to Doug. And I cannot forget to mention Writers Not Writing is a production of Not a Pipe Publishing, so please go to notapipepublishing.com, check out the amazing books written by writers who didn't procrastinate too much. If you like this show, rate and review it wherever you found it, and please check out Jesse's books about space pirates or creativity and productivity. Check out the Bulari Saga. Highly recommend. And rate and review those too. Even a very short review and just one click on that 5th star makes a huge difference to authors. So if you have 3 minutes, make somebody's day. I am too old to tell you to smash that like button. I will never say, just gross. But if you could gently tap on the like button for this show, I would appreciate it. And so to sign off, Jessie and I want you to remember 3 things this week. Jessie, what's your first bit of advice for everybody?
I want people to remember that how you live each day is how you end up living your life. So if you're not happy with the day-to-day, find a way to shift that and daydream yourself into something better.
Excellent. I would like to remind everybody that in life, as in writing, it's the spaces between the words that make it all meaningful. So don't ignore the spaces. And third, no matter how much you procrastinate, remember, we're still proud of you.
If I take my time